Everyone. Thank you so. I'll start that again since we're recording now. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. We're thrilled to have you joining us here for what is definitely going to be an enlightening conversation around the art of possible and what artificial intelligence means for product experiences. So a little housekeeping, there's a Q&A function. I think you're all pretty familiar with that at this point in our careers. As our experts are chatting and having a conversation and something pops into your mind, please feel free to drop it into that Q&A button there. So why don't we get started with some quick introductions? I'll start with myself. My name is Kristin Naragon. I am the Chief Strategy and Marketing Officer at Akeneo. Akeneo is the product experience company. We create and sell a really amazing product information management PIM solution under a product cloud offering for businesses around the world. My firm belief is that product experience investments are going to be outshining, out investing, performing any investment that companies are making in customer experiences next year and over the next 5 years. That's my firm position. And I know that AI in this category is going to accelerate that. So that's a little bit about me. I'm going to turn it over to Brendan. Brendan, why don't you introduce yourself to the audience?
Sure, happy to. Thank you, everyone, for inviting me here today. I'm excited to talk about AI. My name is Brendan Witcher. I am Vice President, Principal Analyst at Forrester Research, covering digital business strategy. I've been here about 10 years. Prior to that, I was a part of the strategy team over at Guitar Center. And before that, I was in marketing at Harry & David. So I've kind of lived the life of a retailer. Plus now I work as an analyst in the retail space. So I'm excited to talk to you about everything. I don't have any firm beliefs as an analyst. Most of my beliefs can get changed at any point in time. Just give me good data. So that's a little bit about me.
Thanks, Brendan. And Francois.
Yes, good morning, everyone. I'm Francois Silvain. I am the digital CTO for Havaianas International. So globally, I'm supervising the IT for all the regions except Brazil. Havaianas, it's a big Brazilian company. We are doing flip-flop, as you can see here. And we are selling more than 200 million spares per year in the world. We are present in more than 100 countries in the world. And we deploy a PIM this year, and we certainly will talk about it today.
Wonderful. Thank you. And Jess, I know that you're here and you've got some exciting news to share along with your intro.
Yes, my name is Jess. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Unifai. We have been developing for 5 years smart supplier data onboarding platform. So what we do is we take data from suppliers, we clean them, enrich them, and then we push them into PIMs. And we are now proud members of the Akeneo family since we've joined forces on the August the 1st, so last month, with Akeneo, of which we've been partners for 3 years now.
Yes, and welcome to the team. We'll deliver intelligence to the world here now. All right, so now you can see we've got an amazing panel. I know you're all thrilled to learn from them, as I am. Every time I have a conversation with this crew, I learn something new. We're probably going to wind through wherever the conversation takes us, but I think generally we talked before about covering, okay, is this artificial intelligence a hype? Is it just all buzz? Or is there going to be some sustained usefulness in applying AI to PX? We'll talk about real world business applications. We'll talk about those impacts on both internally companies and organizations and teams, as well as how that impact resonates in a good way, bad way, or no way at all with consumers as well as business buyers. So that's just to set the stage there. I'm gonna stop sharing because this is a conversation here, and I'm gonna talk us through those topics. I think maybe we start with Jess. AI, Gen AI. What is it? Like, can you just start us out with the basics?
Yes, let's start with the basics. Especially, it's a hot subject, so we hear lots of things. So, how do we define AI? AI is the ensemble of techniques that a machine uses to replicate human behavior. That's AI. So rules are AI. And then if you dig deeper into the subject, what we define is like you have rule-based system, the most basic form of AI that was invented by Alan Turing decades ago. The AI that we speak of now is under the umbrella of what we call machine learning. Machine learning is the sets of techniques that trains itself automatically into repeating human tasks without rules, but with examples. And then, as a subset of machine learning, you have deep learning. In deep learning, you just give examples to the algorithm and they just produce. You don't tell them what the examples are, you just give them materials and then they produce results. Gen AI is often confused with deep and machine learning. Gen AI is not a technological subject. Gen AI relates to all of the AI models that take inputs and that generates media in the broader sense. So text, images, sound, basically.
Okay, so thank you for actually walking us through those structured AI sort of categories or definitions. Brendan, if we all have been paying any sort of attention, ChatGPT revolutionizes and brings back AI, but with Gen AI as the hot button touch point. So can you talk to us about is Gen AI here to stay? Is it just a buzzy trend?
Yeah, that's always the question whenever something new comes into the market, isn't it? I mean, we all ask that question. We're like, okay, is this going to stick around? Is it not? And personally at Forrester, we approach everything through analysis, right? We understand what causes something to become a buzzy buzzword that hypes out of the system and nobody ends up using versus something that became sustainable and sticky. There's really three characteristics to that. Number one is, does it provide value to either the company or the customer? Right. If you think about that, Gen AI has proven in many ways and in many cases to already be doing that. There are plenty of companies out there using generative AI today where the customer experience has certainly been improved. And then a lot of companies where you often find it is sustainable and creates value on the back end. This is common with a lot of technologies. You'll find that it really does a lot of work, and a lot of the benefit lives in the very unsexy world of operations. So for everything you see customer facing, you're probably going to see something operationally or hear about something operationally that actually is moving the needle for the company, which gets me to my second point of when a technology becomes sticky, and that is, can it create ROI? So, that's great to create great customer experiences, but you can't be doing stuff until the point where you become a nonprofit organization. You have to be able to say, well, I can do this in a financial way, that I can launch it. It creates better outcomes for me, but also I'm getting better bottom line margin for that. I'm getting better dollars for that technology. So that checks the box there too. And then the last one, which is very, very, very important, is it technically sound and reliable? Now, we're splitting hairs here, right? I mean, come on, who cares about that? Well, actually, we all care about that quite a bit, right? Because we have to have consistency. One of the challenges many, many, many years ago with something like virtual agents, right? When you saw those out, when they first came out, it was probably about 2010 or 8, somewhere around there. Everyone was like, these are great, let's try them. And then they turned out to be toys because they sometimes were right, sometimes were wrong, that kind of thing, but they never really improved too much after that moment. And that was the problem why they didn't necessarily get used in broad adoption. They got used in specific adoption. Gen AI, to be clear, I'm sure that there's nobody on this call who will tell me that it's perfect. We know that it's not perfect. Everybody knows it's not perfect, but that's okay because we also know what's causing it to not be perfect, and we know those things can be fixed, right? And so eventually nothing will ever be perfect, but it will get to that the statistical amount of reliability and consistency that we need in order to deliver experiences. So yeah, it really does check all three boxes. So this is to stay. This is going to be here.
I like those criteria. I mean, it certainly helps us to ground ourselves in whether or not to make an investment in things like this. And it sounds to me like you are saying very, very firmly, like this is going to provide some long-lasting value for companies and customers. Francois, what do you think? Are you in the same camp?
I am totally in the same camp. I think that, when we talk about ROI, the impact of generative AI on productivity, especially for the marketing team and product management team, is huge. Because we have an inflation of devices, channel, media, format, and it's almost impossible to keep up with the right volume, right speed, and right cost. Okay, so being able to have something that can help us to get there faster with kind of consistency on how we do that, because I agree that consistency is important, but when you start to really control your prompt and really get some good outcome from there, you get consistency and you start to get a really good outcome. And in terms of productivity, it's really incredible. But the second thing of that is also that the outcome of this from ROI in productivity, I think will generate also new behavior for the consumer and new ways that the consumer will consume this data, because we can also apply generative AI to the customer experience and enable them to ask questions in natural language, look for product and get recommendations in natural language. And if you associate this volume of data that you are able to provide and generate, and the capability to connect this data with the consumer, it's become very, very useful for brand and retailers.
But you're on board. AI is here to stay, and I have a sneaking suspicion, Jess, that you are staunchly aligned here. Anything to add? Is this going to stick around for a while?
You're on mute.
So the critique that we had was that the tech is not new, and at the core, it's true. For instance, we have been using generative AIs for 5 years. What really has changed and what make it last and bring ROI is the accessibility and the maintenance. Now, and you can compare it, it's the same comparison between on-prem and SaaS. Before, you had to build your model, you had to host it, you had to train it, you had to correct it, you had to maintain it. Now, everything is wrapped around API. You can plug it, you can unplug it, you can change. You can build magnificent, beautiful UI or very simple UI to ask questions in natural language. That's new. Before, we had to prompt engineer 10 times more than what you have to do now in ChatGPT, So that's new. The other thing, the models existed 5 years ago. I mean, the technological knowledge existed. But the GAFAM and some open source projects invested billions into training the models. And we used to always say, it's better to have a bad model, but with lots of data, than a good model with few data. I think that now we have very, very good models with tons of data, and that's a game changer. And that will make it last.
Okay.
I agree with you on this. I think for us, for example, the power of using generative AI is mostly because it's simple and we can access to a predictive that is not relying only on our data, because actually our problem was to not have this data. Okay, so using algorithms that we train with our own data will not produce anything. So being able to rely on something, a huge universal database of data that we can use through a very simple interface.
Well,
this thing is very, very easy.
Yeah, it sounds much more accessible and useful now. So Brendan, maybe then zoom out and give us that perspective on the market that, how is it being used? Like what's the practical application here for retailers and brands like right now?
Well, what's interesting about that sort of question is that it's not just been useful right now, it's been useful for a while. I think what's, as Jess pointed out, ChatGPT has been around for a while now. It's just been used in a more, shall we say, hyped up way. But now it's getting a lot of attention. What's really interesting is that retailers and brands have been building AI teams since, somewhere around 2014, 2015. And then really they leapt forward a lot when Watson was announced with IBM. You saw that big move after Watson, where all the industry conferences were talking about AI, not Gen AI, but AI. Even independent, they used to have like sections of AI, right? So retailers have been building teams around the idea of having AI for quite a while. So while it may look like just something net new, what's interesting is when you look on the back end, the length of time people have been exploring this in the retail and brand industries has been much longer than you would think. That said, one of the reasons that they've always been investing in it is because of the fact that there's a couple of things happening that are becoming critical for you to have AI as part of your business model. One of those things is that commerce is becoming more diverse. I mean, in retail, as an example, we always hear about people talking about omnichannel as buy online, pick up in store, and cross-channel shopping and all that sort of stuff. And it's a lot about fulfillment. But what's really interesting to me as an analyst is the amount of commerce that's changed, the amount of commerce touch points that are going on. And that happens for brands and retailers alike. The ability to be able to buy something, at a Tesla charging station, or through a Zoom meeting with my doctor, or through a device that's in my house, like a smart device and things of that nature. This is becoming more complicated. The front end is becoming more complicated. And a lot of those experiences are based on small screens or simply voice, right? They're not based on big, beautiful, websites that have tons of space to just show and say whatever we want, right? That gets to the second point, which is commerce is being forced to become simpler. It's becoming something that has to be delivered in a very simple fashion. And what I mean by that is that you don't have the opportunity to get it right through a lot of content and through a lot of imagery. You have to show something that is pertinent. You have to say something that is pertinent right there for the customer and get them to a confidence level quickly, especially in these things like voice only interactions of that nature. And so you start to see how that becomes something that AI is really going to be able to do, because you can't do that at scale with people, right? You need tools to be able to do that. You need to automate your way to those things. And that's how these tools are going to become more beneficial, is because they're not just predictive, they become prescriptive in their nature, in prescribing what we should say and what we should do for the customer, not just predict what the customer wants next, but what do they need in this moment? And that becomes very important. And that also ties into what a lot of retailers and brands are working on, which is personalization, right? As we start to build in these large language models, and as we start to look at big data and little data together, we start to understand that the knowledge of the customer is going to be the key sort of linchpin for being able to create great customer experiences. A lot of people seem to think they can just create great customer experiences without really understanding the customer or having data about the customer. That's just simply not true. And so what do you do with that data when you start to get it? When you go beyond cookies and you start to actually get first party data and understanding the customer's nuances, what they value, what they need, what they want. Well, that's a lot of unstructured data that can come into the system. And the only way to handle that unstructured data is through AI, where it assesses, evaluates, understands, and takes action on that, often in real time. And so this is why it's useful for retailers and brands right now, and how it's being used in many ways. There's an example of Newegg just recently launching on their website, where they took all the product reviews of products and they create a summary paragraph of what the reviews say. Because why? It's a pain point for a customer to go through and read every review, right? That's never going to happen. Some of these products have thousands of reviews on them. But this AI tool, their use of generative AI, was to be able to say, okay, here's what the reviews say in aggregate, right? And that sort of thing. And that's just a tiny little example, and just one of them, of how this is going to really fundamentally change the capabilities we have in serving the customer in a very personalized way.
Super clever application. I mean, I think we've heard about this chaos of explosion of channels and the consumer going in all those different places to get their information. And what I'm hearing you saying is that, like, AI is helping to really calm that chaos and sort of accelerate personalization in those moments. Francois, Brendan talked about a really cool example of AI. What about you? Are you adopting it? I mean, we know you are. Tell us about your adoption of AI with Havaianas.
Yeah. So we we started a big project earlier this year, especially targeting to Amazon, because we had a very kind of bad situation. So Amazon, we did not really manage our contents as we should have, and we let some unauthorized sellers to start to add contents and etc. So our content was poor quality, sometimes even wrong, and not really increasing our search capability and conversions. So we decided earlier this year to solve this problem. Now the problem was we have more than 2,000 products on Amazon, and being able to update the content of 2,000 products optimized for Amazon search engine was a huge undertaking. And so we decided to try with actually ChatGPT and trying to see how we can do that. We was working with a partner, Citation, sorry, and we use their tools, that is Roof's Draft, and we have been able to generate Amazon product title, description, short descriptions, bullet point, keywords for all this product, and we have been able to start to improve our presence on Amazon and the quality of our data on Amazon. And for us, it has been done in something like a month, where it could have taken years to be able to do that at the same level of detail and same level of quality. So for us, it has been really a game changer, and we start to see result of it. So we took time to measure before and after, and now we start to see the result of this work, and it's actually impressive. So we have some product like one of our best sellers this year that we compare with last year, where the data was really not very good. We increased the number of sessions by 800%. We increased the number of units by more than 50%. And that is versus last year, but we look also versus April to June and June to sorry, I have a phone. June to and July to September. So we really try to see how the progressions of this content change and how this impacted. And actually, over these two periods, this year, we have more than 80% more sessions on this product catalog that we impacted. So it's really a game changer for us, game changer in terms of productivity, and game changer in terms of result. Actually, directly impact our revenue. So it's very important for us.
I think that comes back to one of Brendan's key criteria there with ROI. This is a pretty amazing use case here. So let me get this straight, Francois. You put thousands of flip-flops on Amazon to access new audiences with the minimum amount of data. Then you enriched it with generative AI, and the results are, say them again, 800%.
800%. It's it's I will never expect that. Let's be honest. For us it was a try, but the results right now are incredible. So we really believe that going forward it will be part of our productions. Okay, every year we release more than 100 products that are new products, new collections. We drop that four times a year, and the same thing. This product needs to be described and specialized for each channel. Actually, I'm just talking about Amazon right now, but we are on each channel. So being able to produce content that is more specialized for each of these channels, making sure on each of these channels we optimize the searchability and we optimize the conversions, it will be a game changer. So we started with Amazon, but we have a huge opportunity to grow that going forward, and we have also a huge opportunity to go faster on market, because all the new product will be able to generate this content very fast.
Okay, so that product page and making sure that it shows up in the ways you need it to show up for consumers to learn about your product seems to be pretty darn important. Brendan, we talked about the Amazon product page. What about just PDPs in general?
Yeah, the interesting thing about when you think about the experience online for consumer and the product description page, when we look at, let's take a level up. When we look at consumer behavior online, one of the reasons people shop online is because they can do better research, right? I mean, we all know this, right? You can go into a store and you can look at something on a shelf, but you can't learn a whole lot about it, can you? I mean, it's just sitting there. But when you go online, there's so much you can learn about a product, whether it's from the producer of the product or the seller of the product, if they're different, or what even today, what consumers are saying about the product. And so the fact that we create value right there on that page is really important. Why? Because we spend far more time researching than we do buying. Think about it. And it's amazing to me how many times we spend maybe, I don't know, 2 minutes in checkout, maybe a minute in checkout, right? But we'll spend 15 minutes on product description pages, right? So ask yourself this, like, where is it critically important to get the experience right? It's where the customer's spending most time. Of course, you have to get checkout right. Let's be clear. But where is the time spent? The time is spent on the product page or in the research phase of buying. And so this is where we need to make sure that we're going to improve things, because we're going to impact more of the time of the experience of the consumer. And that becomes very, very important. But finding products can be very difficult. I think this is another part of that journey. It's not just on the product description page. It's about, how do I get to that product description page that's right what I'm looking for? So as we level up, we backwards engineer our product description pages into what did they end up finding because of the inputs that they give. We start to understand how critically important those things become to be accurate. I really like a couple examples of this, right? And I already mentioned Newegg and their aggregate of reviews. They are also doing something that Amazon is doing, which is they're taking reviews and saying, what are the keywords? You'll see this now on Amazon, where if you go to something, there's a little section that says, what are the commonly used words when describing this product? And they'll say, soft or easy to use and blah, blah, blah. And then they'll use the negative ones too, broken, didn't work, didn't last, those sorts of things. And so you'll start to see those in aggregate. But what's really interesting to me is the analysis of information, so that you can start to think about how you think about your products differently. There's a commercial here in the US by CarMax, and I call it the smooth commercial. And I thought it was pretty cool because the commercial is all about over 10,000, they announced on the commercial, they say over 10,000 customers, I think it was, say, the process from buying from CarMax is smooth. Now, why did that strike me as an analyst? Because it seems a rather banal statement that almost any retailer might say or whatever. It's because you wouldn't go thinking to look for the word smooth, right? You'd say, did I feel confident? Did I feel taken care of? Did I feel like all these things? Smooth is not a word you're normally looking for, right, when buying a car. But yet was in the analysis of the reviews, they were able to find that. So you start to think about yourself and the way you think about the things you say about your service, or in this case, the buying process, or even your products, and saying, are we really using voice of the customer here? Right? It's so funny how many times I'll look at some of the top information that consumers will say about a product, and then I look at the description that was done by a creative team about the product, and I'll say, there's no matching here. What they're saying has nothing to do with what consumers are saying they really actually value about this product. And that becomes something that a generative AI tool can fix, because it helps make suggestions towards things. And I'm going to get to that in a minute. It helps make suggestions towards things on what you might be able to use that might resonate better. And then you test it and you learn, right? And maybe you get that 800%, who knows? But the thing is, you test it and you learn. And what I mean by it suggests things is because, to be honest, nobody at Forrester believes that you should just let it run, put everything on generative AI, just let it go, right? We still believe that AI can also stand for, and should stand for, assisted intelligence, not just artificial intelligence. And by that, I mean that humans still need to be involved. We need to look at what's being generated. We need to look at what's out there, and that will give us new ideas, because we are limited as humans. Again, we would never go looking for smooth in describing a car experience, but because the AI tool didn't have the limitations of finding that information, they were able to go in and find that. So that's where we start to get really insightful information, again, more prescriptive than predictive from the new tools. And that's where I've seen product pages really improve and become things of higher value, especially compared to those who are not, right? You're always talking about differentiating experiences. Well, your website probably has a homepage, product listing page, product description page, and a checkout. Anybody not have that, right? Does anybody have anything more than that? Like, really? So you start to think, okay, what do we have to improve in these 4 areas? And this is just one way to do it.
Francois, I think you had some ideas on this too, right? The product page, obviously, that you've been enriching has that impact on business results. But if we translate that into maybe a little bit about what Brendan has been talking about, what is that expectation then for your consumer? Like, what the product description page has a huge impact on us as in our researching process. What's that impact look like for you?
Yeah, I think it's the second part of how we can leverage generative AI for retailer. It's, I think, we was talking so far to okay, how we can improve our content, enrich our content, have a high quality, complete and enriched content for our customers. That is great because I totally agree with you, Brandon. Where customers spend time is on this page, and it's where it is important. But at the same time, I think what generative AI gives us as an opportunity is to actually put the customer at the center of the conversation. So meaning that you enable them to express their needs in natural language, and then being able to recommend and propose results based on that. So meaning that to your point, if a customer wants to search on a car dealer, I want a smooth experience, why we could not answer something? Okay, so if you put smooth in the search engine of your website, I guarantee you that you will not find any car. Now, if you let the customer expressing this demand, like I want to buy a car, but I want to have a smooth experience, I guarantee you that we can find recommendations that will be about the product, but also about the process, because what gives us the generative AI capability is more than the search, is understanding the context of the questions and matching this context with the amount of data that we know and the amount of information that we may have about the product, but also about the services that we can deliver. And this experience is very, very different of what we do. As you said, today we have homepage, PDP page, PLP page, and PDP page. We try to funnel our customer in a predictive way to buy. Let's turn the table and let the customer say what he wants to buy and how he wants to buy it, and let's try to match both together to propose a completely new experience of shopping. And this experience of shopping can be very different also by devices. It can be text, it can be voice, it can be image, it can be a different way to do it. But I think generative AI in the future for the consumer is where we need to invest to actually leverage all this knowledge and all this information that we are today able to produce, is how to make that in the end of the consumer on his own language, I think.
Love it. So I want to get to the impact on the teams, but I know, Brendan, when you talk about the impact on the consumer, there's a lot more to consider. Real quickly, like what else do you think is the impact on us as buyers and consumers?
Yeah. The reality is that as we move to more first-party data and understanding the customer, we're going to create more interactions with the customer. We need to have those digital dialogues be generated, and to do that in real time and at scale, we need to be able to say, okay, how do we create those interactions and where a customer can give us their voice now and we react to it immediately? That's the exciting part about CX and PX, right? Because I'm going to ask questions about customer experience. Like, can I pick up this item today? I'm going to ask questions about the product. Like, will this hold up under certain weather conditions, right? There's going to be a lot of that back and forth dialogue. And that's really the understanding the intent of the customer shouldn't be what I want to buy. It's what I want to buy and what I'm concerned with that is keeping me from buying. And when we alleviate those things, that's when we get a customer to click that button and to put their credit card in and buy it from us.
Okay, so expectations on the customer. You expect that customers are going to be more patient with brands now that there's this new AI. Are consumers going to expect more out of brands in those interactions? What do you think?
I think they'll certainly say that was nice, right? Like that was different. That's what I wanted. That's, because I mean, let's be real. When you go into a store and you interact with an associate, at least one who's got experience, it is a better experience, right? Than trying to find things on your own. We're all trying to emulate that sort of in-store great sales rep experience online. Today, when people go to a website, they're basically throwing products at them, right? A blender, a shirt, here's a blender, here's a blah, buy, right? Here's a promo if we don't think you're going to buy, right? We buy our customers if we don't think they're going to buy from us. So this is not the right strategy for online. What we want to do online is create that same great experience that you would have in a physical environment. Someone say, well, what are you interested in? Oh, you want to buy a toaster. What kind of toaster? 4 slice, 2 slice? You know, do you need to have a gluten-free setting? Like whatever you need when you want to buy that toaster. And that's what product pages need to turn into. They need to turn into these interactive moments with the customer where the customer can share like, well, I don't like this, but I don't like that. I want this, I want that, right? Where is that? You may say, well, it's all in the left nav filtering. Come on, we know that it's to some degree it's there, but a lot of cases the customer has very specific needs, very specific wants that don't necessarily live on the left-hand side of the page. And so this is the kind of thing I think we're going to see product description pages turn into, is more of those moments of interaction with the consumer. And that's where it's going to really differentiate. Like, think about how much different that is than the current experience. Brands and retailers who get that right, they're going to be a step ahead of the game.
I love this. This is innovation shaking up that product detail page and interactions with the product, and how we as consumers or buyers, B2B buyers, make that information accessible and get what we need when we are looking for it. So let's flip real quickly. So we talked a lot about the impact on the buying process, the interaction with the customer and the buyer. Just real quick, let's peek behind the curtain, see how all of that is impacting teams and how they're putting that together.
So PX team have very tough jobs and works. You know, I mean, I'm going to place myself as on the retail side, but Francois told his story on the brand and manufacturing side, which is kind of the mirror of what I'm going to tell. But just close your eyes. Picture yourself as a category manager. You have 50 suppliers to manage. You're responsible for a category of products. So you have the attributes that describes your product. Maybe you have on this product family per category, you may have 10 subset families. Maybe each subset has 20 attributes to describe a product. On average, I think products are described by 20, 30 attributes, depending on the complexity. It's more on the B2B side, but so 20 columns to fill in to describe a product. You have one family, right? You're one category manager. You have 50 suppliers, and you have maybe 50,000 SKUs. So you can do the math. If you need to take an Excel sheet with 50,000 SKUs and 200 columns to look at and ask the question, should I fill this attribute, yes or no? And what's the value I should put in it? You're going to think 100 million times of it. That's the number of questions you're going to ask yourself. 100 million times, should I fill this attribute value? Of course, some of the value is provided already with suppliers, but that's the scale of the issue. And then you multiply that by the number of categories you have, and so the number of category managers that you have, and you have an idea of the size of the problem that a retailer has to manage. So it's very, 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 very tedious. And those people, that the category managers that do the work, they were not hired to check Excel sheets and manage Excel sheets, even if that's what they do. When I launched my e-commerce website 10 years ago, I wasn't planning on doing Excel corrections. I wanted to talk to my suppliers, maybe do some negotiation, maybe try to find out what are the right words, like should I say smooth or something else. But I didn't have the time to do it because I needed to put that data in, because if I didn't do it, I wouldn't sell. They're not going to do it anymore. At least they're going to check stuff. You're going to come from a work of doing grunt work to checking, sampling, like scientists on the Arctic Pole taking samples from the ice. That's what you're going to do. Much easier.
I think I closed my eyes for a moment and then I had a panic attack thinking about all this. Do you
I have the medicine.
We know. Francois, do you think that C teams, the CEO knows that he or she needs a CRM to help manage, what was formerly the chaos with customer data? Do you think they know what's going on with that poor category manager with all those spreadsheets?
I don't think they know, but they look at the results. So coming back to this 800%, that that they are noticing. But I agree on the productivity. I think so. We already talked about it, and what you are saying is very important. But I will add some things to it. Is also now we start to have our merchandising team thinking more strategically about our content. And why? Because now we have the capability to provide content that is not only complete from a product point of view, but can be targeted to a channel, and even better, can be targeted to an audience, because we are capable to generate a lot of contents and personalize these contents to certain characteristics that can be for a specific kind of audience. For us, for example, we have a very different audience on Amazon versus what we have on our e-commerce site, and we want that. But so far, we was not able to really personalize the contents because it was too much for us. Now we can start to think like this. So that means that our merchandising team can start to add to their segmentation strategy by adding specific contents that will be better fit and better targeted to these different channels. And that is huge, because it's not only productivity, it's become a marketing tool and become future revenue. And that is really, really important for us going forward.
I love it. So last quick take here, Brendan. So we've got impact on consumers and buyers. We have impact on the org. We have real world business, like pretty significant real world business impact here. If I'm sitting in the audience and I haven't yet really, dove into leveraging AI in my day-to-day, why now? Why should I do it now?
Yeah, it's a great question. The reason is because experiences will start to change very quickly, and that will change customer expectations in a very rapid manner. So when we start to think about the use of generative AI, I mean, think about the idea that the idea of time to info, time to service is very important, right? If I want, let's say that I'm let's say who I am, right? White, male, all these kinds of things. And I want to see what that red sweater looks like on a white male. Well, if the model isn't a white male, then I can't see that. But generative AI can say, well, put in your age, put in your gender, put in your, ethnicity, and we'll show you what that red sweater will look on a person like you, right? So we say, okay, it would have taken all the time for it to get to me to put it on to see what that would look like, or I just saw it on the page. I mean, think of the delta in time that you've just saved the customer being able to see that. So right now we already see retailers up and running with generative AI. Well, it won't take years for late adopters to catch up, but it does take time to develop. It does take time to work with these models and to train the team on how to use these tools. Now is the time, because as I said, once you learn how to use it, the time to value becomes very quick, and companies can get up and running with generative AI rather rapidly compared to other technologies. And so I would say, like, now is the moment, because what you don't want to do is lose your customers to somebody else who is just, a month ahead of you or 2 months ahead of you, which can very easily happen when consumers say, wow, that is a fundamentally better experience. Think about getting a taxi or a ride, right, with Uber. Why do you use Uber? Why do you use Lyft? Why do you use these ride sharing services? It wasn't because the ride's different. It wasn't because the ride was free. It was because the time it took to get the ride, because I can order it on demand. I don't have to stand on a corner and wait for a taxi, right? Time is very valuable to us. And so as you're saving consumers time, being able to create better experiences for them where they feel more confident, think about how quickly and rapidly that's going to shift a customer over. It isn't just making a better product recommendation, right? It is a fundamentally different experience, and that's really going to have an impression on the consumer. So now is the time to start.
Love it. Let's disrupt this industry. And I think now is indeed the time to start. You know what? We have covered so much great ground here. I feel like we could go on forever. So maybe we should just do a round 2 of this a little bit later on. But maybe with some, if I try to summarize what we've covered here, AI is clearly not new. It's therefore not hype. And 800% is a number that is just stuck in my brain. The impact is real. It's helping businesses accelerate time to market. It's helping teams sort of tame all of that chaos, not live and die by spreadsheet maintenance. but elevate and do more thoughtful engagement in product experiences, customer experiences. So I feel like clearly there's urgency here, Brendan, like you say, to get started now. We have one question in the audience that I think is pretty relevant, and I thought maybe, well, I'll open it up to the three of you to see if you'd like to take a stab at it. The question that we got in was, what do you think of the latest ChatGPT update on the ability to describe images?
I can take it if you want,
Yeah.
especially in fashion industry. It can be a game changer, because since Instagram, a lot of people are actually shopping fashion through picture, okay? But there is no connections. There is no connections between a picture and a product, especially when it's an advertising, but in general, it's very complicated. Enabling customer to shop with, oh, I like this. Tell me what in your catalog that can match this picture, will be a game changer. And I think it's a great opportunity to develop this kind of interactions, like voice, being able to shop with voice. It doesn't seem new because we have Google, we have Amazon, but enable that on your website. Just enable that on your website, enable your customer to be on their mobile and browse with voice. It's also something that will be possible with the new release of ChatGPT and Bard, Google Bard the same way, actually, and there is millions of investment on this. So the acquisitions of the context will boom in the next 18 months, to be honest. It's a voice, it's images, I'm pretty sure at one point of time it will be videos. And so that means that your capability to capture the need of the customer and the context of this need will become huge, and how you match that with your product catalog, because at the end of the day, it's what matters for you as a retailer or brand is to make sure that you propose products that match this need, would be extremely important if you want to actually capture this customer in terms of conversions. Okay,
so Brendan says start now, and Francois is telling us to make sure that you're using the latest. I also wanted to take a moment as we conclude with all of this great information to really help focus the folks on the in the audience here. How do you realize this? Like, how do you take that? If Brendan is sitting here telling you, and you should totally take his advice to get started today. I wanted to let you all know that Akeneo is absolutely here to help you digest all of it, help you make sense of it, and actually just get started. So we have been looking at this situation on applying AI to product experiences for quite some time now. Clearly, we've made an investment with Unifai to help us really bring that in-house and make it easier to apply and adopt. We've seen three core moments, let's say, very practical applications of artificial intelligence, machine learning in creating those product experience moments that the team has talked about today. The first one is getting that just data in there, getting into your catalog, complete, normalized. Francois talked a lot about making sure that there was enough information to describe the flip-flops, right? To describe your products. This is priority number one. AI can help with that. And then once you have that catalog with rich information in it, gosh, then Gen AI, then those innovative product experience transformations can happen because you've got the core foundation set. So enrich and generate new descriptions. And then step three, really personalize those product experience moments. Take translation as a specific example of that, right? You can take the descriptions that you've generated and then translate them, localize them to a new market, get to market faster, right? With generative AI. It's just a very simple example there, but these are three examples that we have seen and ready to use today inside of Akeneo. You don't have to go too far to make that work. And if you are interested in learning more, we have built out for you a full, like I get lost in pages like this, but it's AI for PX here at the Akeneo.com website. You can see how to take advantage of that, which of the generative AI tools might be best for your use case. So take a browse. We encourage you to follow us on LinkedIn and join the conversation, continue this conversation that we've had here today. And most of all, if you are excited about the content, have a chat with us, contact us. We can have one of our PX experts just walk you through it personally. So with that, I want to thank each of you, Brendan, Jess, Francois. I really learned a lot again today. Appreciate your time and your insights.
Pleasure.
Thank you to you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a really wonderful day.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.